Welcome everybody to week 5. All right. We have went through 4 weeks of editing. So we've done a um, assemble cut, a rough draft, a fine cut, and a picture lock, so a final cut. So we are now that we have picture lock, we are now moving into color correction. So we're going to go through in our last 4 weeks, so week 5, 6, 7, and 8, we're going to go through each piece that you need to know in the correct order for you to uh, complete your film. So to think about it. So if we have multiple things that we have to do, we have audio correction and sweetening, sound effects that go along with audio, so Foley and, just working on all of the audio sweetening and correcting. We have color correction and color grading, and then we have visual effects. With all of those things, when we're doing this, think about when you should do these. So, sure, we could go in and we could do audio correction right now. That is absolutely a step that some production houses would have you do next. Um, I tend to, but most, let me back up, but most professional productions are going to have you do color correction next. The reason being is if we're at picture lock and we're going into color correct now, and we find that there's a shot that has an issue that can't be color corrected properly or color graded properly, it's causing an issue that still does give us time, even though we have technically hit picture lock. We could go do a reshoot. We could then bring that new shot in, put it, insert it into place, get it all ready and edit it in place and replace shots. Let's say it's multiple shots. Replace the multiple shots that there's a problem with. Versus if you go through audio correction and visual effects, and then you come back to color correction, and then you find there's a problem, then you have to go redo all those steps again. So you could do audio correction. There's minimal risk of issues, but really color correction is the next step that is a great step to go on. So with this week, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to color correct and color grade properly. I've also given you some pieces within the study materials that give other people's perspectives on how they like to use the same tools that I'm going to show to use. I'm going to give you a basic overview of how to do something. The study materials give you more finite pieces that people are showing you different tricks and tips that they have. So. As always, there'll be a video right here. Notice lecture video, the one I'm recording currently and you're listening to, fits right here. Color correction and color grading is about emotion. So remember, if we're not eliciting some form of emotion from our audience, we're not doing our job. Because if somebody doesn't have an emotional reaction to what they're watching, they're going to turn it off. Whether it's a happy reaction, sad reaction, they're crying, they're angry, whatever it might be, there needs to be an emotional reaction. And if there's not an emotional reaction, they're bored, which is technically an emotion in itself. But boredom is the one emotion we don't want anybody to ever feel about the films and videos that we create. So, prior to class, make sure that you have finished your picture lock edit. So, your final edit, make sure that has been turned in. Check notes to make sure that there are no more notes for you to have picture lock. I'm going to give notes if I feel notes need to be given, and those fixes need to be done before you jump into color correction. Okay. So we've had 4 weeks to go through this and make sure that your edit is as fine and perfect as possible. If there are any last minute notes like, hey, there's a, flash frame over here, or this edit runs too long and it has something you don't need in there, or whatever it might be, make sure you go back and correct those. Okay. So make sure you finish those. Make sure that you have finished and completed your essay, and then you're on to this week's responsibilities. Okay. Here's your study materials. We got 4 videos this week. This first video is a great video just talking about color and color theory and how color can be used and how color is used in different films. I find this to be an incredibly interesting short video, and make sure that you go through and watch that. Right here we have Premiere Pro, some secret tricks as they have posted right here. Secret tricks, color correcting within Premiere Pro. These guys are really good, actually. Their whole webpage, or their YouTube page, almost every single thing that I've ever watched of theirs has just been so on point. They really take a different a different direction in what they're doing, and they honestly give some really great tutorials and just good videos. I really like these guys. Okay, and this one right here, really great video for skin tone and skin color. He's going to show you a couple ticks, trips, and if I can say it, tricks and tips. I want to say tips and tricks and whatever. It's messing with me, the two T's. Tricks and tips about color grading skin. And he does a couple things where he masks off some parts and shows you how he looks at skin tone. It's another way. I don't particularly go this direction, but it's not wrong. But it is one more way that you could take a look and see if you like what he does. Definitely watch him. And then down here, color grading. And this is just a lesson in color grading and how it can be done. Um, it's a little bit more advanced in getting more precise. I could do a color grading video that lasted 6 hours, and I'm sure you guys would not want to watch it. So I'm going to go through the very basics of color grading. If you want to learn a little bit more, and there's certain things that you want to do within your video, this is a great short video where he gives you some tricks and some ideas on how to color grade. So there is a difference between color grading and color correction. Color correction is the actual correction of color, finding what should be white, what should be black, what your blues, your reds, your cyans, your magentas, making sure that everything hits just right. Your skin tones are skin toned. So you're color correcting if there's any correction that needs to be done. There's actually very slight correction within the films that you guys are working on. Not major correction at all. Just slight adjustments, honestly, to the hue of the frame. And then there's color grading. Color grading is the change of a colors for emotion. So if you look at this picture right here, what color would you say this shot is? So this is supposed to, I believe this picture is actually from Mad Max. Um, the I think there was a new Mad Max like 5 to 7 years ago. And if you look at it, it's very tan, red, orangey. It's kind of sitting in that spectrum right over here, as what they show on here. And what does this color say to you? This color says desolate, hot, or warm. Um, Post-apocalyptic. It has a feel to it. The car definitely adds to the post-apocalyptic feel. But if you took the car out and you had just this shot of this silhouette of this person, this could be you're on Mars or you're in a desert. There are different colors that elicit different emotions. Your blues are going to be kind of a cold and sad and somber type feel. Your reds and your oranges and your kind of tans that lean in the red and orange direction are going to be warm and hot and angry and alone. There's a lot of different feels to it. And in your assignment page that we'll go through in a moment, um, I actually have given you a little template so you can find what colors you think you need to grade. So what you tend to do in a color grade, and I'll talk about this a bit more as I get into my tutorial. Um, what you want to tend to do is you don't want to like just tweak your color over to one side or the other in general. I mean, if you have a reason for it, then you do it. But what you want to do is you want to take your color corrected footage, and then let's say they're outside and it's snowing. Well, if it's outside and snowing and color corrected perfectly and it's a bright and sunny day, you may go, well, it feels kind of hot while it's snowy. Versus if you put a hue of blue into it, it's going to give it that colder feel. It's going to make the light a little more blue and give you that kind of like cold feeling. Um, Versus you can do the same thing as what they did here is they have I heard about this shoot. They were shooting in the middle of the winter and it was actually incredibly cold outside, but they shot it and they adjusted the color grading to a more tannish orange color to give it that hot feel. Hot and desolate is what they're looking for. So we'll go through that just a moment. So you got these videos. By all means, please watch all four of these videos. Great tips and tricks on how to color grade and color correct. And then on to your assignments. So you're going to be color correcting and color grading your footage. Here is the psychology of color in film. So these are your reds, or not reds, I'm sorry. These are your colors, the hues of the colors that give you different feelings. So red is like love and passion and violence and danger and anger and power. Notice how you always see people that are supposed to be in a powerful position. They're in a suit with a red tie, or there's red on them. You have orange, like warmth and social ability and friendliness and happiness, erotic and youthful. You can tend to migrate your color grading in that direction. You have your blue over here is cold and isolated, cerebral, melancholy, passivity, calm. Okay, and then you have your purples are fantasy, and ethereal. So all of the colors have different emotions and different actual feelings, like real world feels. So temperatures and so on and so forth. So you can utilize this chart to kind of figure out what direction or what color combinations you want to do. So here's your assignment. Correct the light balance of every shot. I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. So that's the first thing you do. Do these in order, by the way. So correct your light and darks. Is it too light? Is it too dark? Is it perfect? Do we need to mess with some shadows? So on and so forth. Correct that first. Okay. Right. Then color correct your footage with the hues. And some people go back and forth. Some people say color correcting your footage first and then your lights and darks is better. Um, I feel like with this footage we have, it's fairly close to the correct color. So your lights and darks are more important, and then you can jump into your colors. Okay. Then you're going to go back and color grade your footage, use the chart um, to help keep your colors. The colors that you should be using. So they're right here. Now, right here, think environmental. Is it hot? Is it cold in the location of what you're watching? Okay. Think emotion of the characters. What emotion fits that? Like, is the emotion and the temperature, the actual temperature outside, the environmental feel, is it similar? Are we gonna get over here in the reds and oranges, or are we gonna be over here in the blues and purples? If not, is there like some warmth to the film, but at the same time you need some blue or something? Well, maybe you're gonna sit in the green area. Okay, so you need to kind of feel where it fits. Okay. Once you've done that, export your final color correction and turn it into YouTube, and then turn the link in here. And then, as always, please screenshot a couple of your pieces of footage that you're color correcting. Okay, so as you're color correcting, when you get finished with one, take a screenshot, turn a couple, two or three of those in here so I can see what you're doing. Many times, I've had students go, "I'm having a real hard time doing such and such." Well, then I could go look at their shot and I can go, oh, well, you have this turned all the way down or this turned all the way up, or you didn't move it at all, and this would really help you. Okay. So that's what we're doing this week. Oh, there's actually one more. And then your essay, 500-word essay. Tell me what you learned about color and how it affects the viewer. What colors did you choose to use and why? Give me a good explanation on what's going on. I want to hear about these. I know that in general people don't like writing the essays. I understand that. But really what this does for me is this lets me know how everybody is receiving the material, how they're utilizing the material, and is it working? Do I need to tweak or change things within the class to make it easier for people to understand? Are there pieces that I'm missing? Am I oversharing? Like it's a good place for me to hear from you so I can make changes if they need to be changed. But at the same time, I want to know. It gives you a deeper understanding if you can explain what you feel you've learned. I want that deeper understanding from you guys. All right. And then into the actual demo here. So in this demo, I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you. Oh, I almost dropped something. Hold on. Okay, there we go. In this demo, I'm going to show you how to do color correction. All right. So what I've done is I've loaded two different shots in. There's one right here, and there's one right here. This one has a window in it. Light is coming through the window, so that's affecting him right here. And this one over here, he technically is standing in front of a window, but there's all kinds of, you can't see it because the camera, but the camera, and then there's all kinds of different things with the camera that are blocking light and such. So this is a different color. All right. So, once you have your fine cut or your final cut done, and we're at picture lock, you're going to have all these shots lined up. So I'm going to grab two of them. I'm going to walk you through how this works. So I'm going to first off come over here and under editing, I'm going to click this little box right here, and I'm going to slide on down to color. Okay, when I do that, this brings me into Lumetri color. So if I go like that and squeeze it over, there's all different sides to this. There's basic color correction, there's creative, there's curves, and I use all these different pieces. I'm not going to go through every single one of these because, like I said earlier, I could spend 6 hours on this. If your color wheels, your HSL wheels. By the way, if you've ever seen those videos where everything's black and white, but then one item in the shot is red or is a color or whatever, you do that here in HSL secondary. If you ever want to learn how to do that, oh, there's a million. There's absolutely a million. I swear there's at least a million. There might be 2 million um, tutorials on YouTube. And then there's vignette editing, so you can mess with vignettes. I might play with that in a little while if this doesn't get too long. All right. So where we want to start is we want to start on basic color because this is all you're actually going to need. Now, if you want to do more, you can do more, but you're really only going to need this amount for, or these tools for this footage. This footage has been shot and utilized, and it's overall really solid. Okay. Secondly, I don't need that. We could trim that over. All right. So secondly, what we want to do is we want to line up. So has anybody ever wondered why your slate is white and black, and then some of the slates actually have colors up on these little bars right here? Okay. What that's for is so you can actually get an appropriate white balance. Okay. So if your camera was white balanced, if you select the white balance tool, which I'm going to show you in a second, um, nothing will change in the picture. Okay. But this slate is white and these little bars are black and white. So you can always show what is white and black. So we're going to start off and we're going to come over here under white balance. So remember, we're under our Lumetri tools and we have all these different tool pieces and we're going to go under basic color correction. We're going to go white balance. You can click this little eyedropper. You can cruise right on over here and you can select right on the white and click. And notice what just happened right here. These were at 0, 0, 0.0 on both of them. They actually shifted. Now I'm going to show you the shift. This little FX button, you can turn it on and off, on, off. And it's ever so slight. It's so slight. It's not even funny. I can see like in his forehead, it changes just a little tiny bit. Okay, as I said, the white was pretty close. Okay, next, what we want to do is we actually want to make sure that we're in our Lumetri scopes because I'm going to show you how to use scopes. So I'm going to cruise over here to this tab and it's Lumetri scopes. Here they are right here. If you don't have those, if this tab's not open, okay, you can come up here to, I'm sorry, Windows. I went to View, and you come down here, and there's Lumetri Color, Lumetri Scopes. Okay, Lumetri Color is this right here. Notice it says Lumetri Color, Lumetri Scopes. Click off of that, Lumetri Scopes. Okay, so if you come down here, you'll find Lumetri Scopes. If you don't have this, all you have to do is click Scopes, and there'll be a check mark next to it, and it's right here. And then you have your choice of scopes. So you can go to this wrench right here. Notice this says Rec 709. A quick explanation, Rec 709 is the standard color space utilized within television. Okay, so if it's going to be played on a television, it's generally going to have Rec 709 as the metering that it's going to read. Okay, next you have right here 8-bit, 10-bit, float, and HDR. You can switch from these. Because we're doing this on YouTube, you never need to go any further when it's on YouTube above 8-bit. They don't bring in or that you can't see anything nicer than 8-bit on YouTube. Now, if this was going to a streaming service or playing in a theater, or whatever you might wherever it might be, you could go to 10 bit right here, which is going to give you what we call a deeper color space. What that is there is more color available to you that you can tap into to really bring out, like back here, this window right here in the shot, we could really bring out the color in that window, and the bookcase, we could really saturate that color in the bookcase, and at the same time never change our actor or never change other things. We can really get in there and within a deeper color space manipulate color even deeper. Now, again, when you have 8-bit, 10-bit, 12-bit, 16-bit, then there's float. What float is basically all of the color space, as much as that can happen. You can only see so much depending on the quality of the output and what it's playing on. If it's playing on YouTube, we can go manipulate all these things and we can manipulate them deeply. And then all it's going to do is it's going to just crush those colors. So you don't, it's what we call it crushing, when it like just drowns it out and it makes it where you can't even tell that you did anything. All right. So you hear crush blacks quite often when the blacks just get so black they're beyond black and it just looks weird. So same thing here. You could go in there and you're going to, if you go in and do like 10-bit color space change and then you were to export it out to an 8-bit, it's not going to do anything for you. So long explanation, but think about where your output is going to be. If it's playing on an actual TV from a real streaming service, or if you happen to burn it onto a Blu-ray DVD, or you are playing it directly from a computer onto a TV, you can go to 10-bit. But if you're going to YouTube, don't even bother. 8-bit. All right. So right here is our settings. We're going to click on these and we get to decide what we want to see. So you have your vector scope. Click here. So here's your vector scope right here. Um, I'm not going to go through this because there's a video that goes through this. And honestly, this is not used as much as it used to be, because we're in digital and not analog, but it is still used. So you don't have to worry about that one. You can go to histogram. So here's your histogram, and your histogram shows your color spaces also with your white spaces. But at the same time over here, this is your RGB parade. They measure basically the same thing. There are slight differences. So if you know about photography and such really well, and you're like, Mr. Sheets, your RGB parade and your histogram are completely two different things. They are two different ways of reading the same information. So remember that. And honestly, I prefer the RGB parade over the histogram. It gives me my metering levels, and so I can actually read the meters better. It's what works for me. Some people like the histogram a little bit better. Okay, you can go to the RGB parade. Okay, there. I'm sorry, this was RGB parade. This is the RGB color space. All right, so I'm going to go turn these other ones off because I don't want vector scope. Okay, and I don't want my histogram. So my histogram's gone. So now I have right here, I have my this is my RGB parade and this is my waveform. I prefer either one of these. They're reds very similarly. This one breaks up your red, blues, and greens into two separate, and then this one is together. Um, I'm actually going to change this one to show you what I truly like. So over here, I have my parade, so I can go RGB, YUV, RGB white, and UV white. And under my waveform, I can go RGB and I can go Luma. I like Luma. Notice it is now black and white. So I have my colors and I have my black and white. Okay. You're going to see why I like this in just a moment. And the fun thing is you're going to be able to see in here. You're going to see the picture as you go through and start looking at this. Okay, so when we're looking at this, the rule of thumb for both of these is you never want anything over 100 and you never want anything below zero. Ever, 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 ever. You can't see anything above 100 because this is your light right here. So your luminance, brightness, anything above 100 is just basically pure white. It's just blown out. Anything below zero is pure black. You can't see anything. The good rule of thumb is to go 5 to 95. Okay. So you really don't want to push anything above 95 and you really don't want to drop anything below 5. It's okay if you look here, you see some little wispies, like there's this little wispies. It's okay if you have a little wispy that's chilling up here. That's okay. Because what that is some little something out here in the picture that is of no importance. Okay. But the bulk of your image, so notice this big line right here. This big line is this big strip of darkness right here. Notice it's not quite at zero, but man, it sure is dark. You have a dark arm in there. Watch what happens when I move this. As I move, you can see right here, this is the brightness in the picture, and notice how bright that is. As it moves, that moves back and forth. Okay. You can also see the arm. Okay, that's the fun thing when I show people that they start going, "Oh wow, I never realized that." So you can see the brightest part of the shot is right here, and the brightest part of the shot is right here. If I move it, it moves around with it. Okay, so we're right here. We've already done our white balance. So we've clicked this. We've come over here. We're going to click it, see if it changes at all. It changes. It changed just a little bit more. Now, next, we want to do, notice right here, light. We want to work on the light. That's the first thing I told you I wanted to do. So what we want to do is we want to look over here and we want our blacks to be at -5, right? So let's raise our blacks just a little bit until it's right in between. Okay. So now our black is at -5. Okay. And now we want to raise our whites. So we have our whites at 95. Now, I'm giving you a lot of information. And what I'm doing is I'm telling you these things as good rules of thumb to start with your project. Now, things absolutely change within the color space. Okay. They always do. But if we start here, it gives us a baseline that we can then work from if we want to change or adapt. Okay. So next, I'm going to come over here, whites, and I'm going to bring my whites. Now, what I'm going to suspect is this is going to get too bright if I bring this right here up to here. Let's see what happens. So I start bringing it up, 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 up. It's not even going to make it all the way because there's just not enough brightness. Okay, so this is actually even more white. If I come over here when it's not in there, he's a bit bright on the side of his face and down here on the neck. So we're going to bring that down. But notice what we have, dot, dot, dot. These three lights are the three dots right here. These three dots are at 100. Do we want those at 100? No, we don't. So let's bring those three dots down. Bring them. Yeah, they're dimming as we bring them down. That's probably good enough. That's that dimness, that's the dead center. Okay, and we're right here at 50. That's the rest of the shot. So let's look up here. Our blacks are here, but what we have here is we have everything crushed down on the bottom. We don't want that to be crushed at the bottom. So let's look at the shadows here. What happens if I drag my shadows up? Notice they're lifting, okay? And it's bringing some of that brightness up, okay? So we're bringing the bulk up from negative or from 5, and we're bringing it up a little bit. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. And again, this is just, we're playing around right now. We can bring this up, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. Okay, I like now, I like what the wall looks like. Okay, I like that I can see the wall better. I like that I can see more of the background better, as opposed to when I drop it down, or we lose a bunch. Okay, even like right here on the bookshelf, can't see what that is. So bring that up. Good. Okay, there's my shadow. Now, his face is blown out and too bright, right? But what can I do? What happened? All of my blacks pulled up from 5 to 10. Well, let's take our blacks down just a little bit. Bring those back down to that 5. Okay, so we brought it down. It brought in a little bit of that contrast. Okay, now our lights, we're back here at the whites. And remember, I was saying that we were starting to see some things get a little too bright on there. I can bring our whites down a little bit to bring more of that skin tone back in. Okay, and notice as I bring it down, it drops down. Okay, so I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. And I'm going to look at the highlights. Our highlights are pretty bright on his face. We can bring our highlights down. I mean, if I take them all the way down, it starts to kind of get a white hue to it. So we want to bring it down just a little tiny bit. Okay. And then we have our contrast. We can up our contrast, which is going to bring the blacks in. And also notice it starts to bring his face back a little bit. So we want to play with that contrast. Okay. We can still see more of the background. Notice the shelves and everything are a little bit brighter. He's a little bit brighter. And I can look at the shadow and go, my shadows are a hair much. Let me bring my shadows down just a little bit. Let me bring my blacks up just a teeny tiny bit. Let's bring my contrast up. Okay. By the way, if I bring my contrast down, notice how it just goes white. All right. So I'm gonna bring my contrast up just a little bit. And then I have my exposure. I can bring exposure up. I can bring exposure down. So I can also come all the way up here and say, oh, let's bring that way up and go, oh, that's way too bright. But I can bring some whites down. I can bring our contrast up. I can bring some highlights down. And notice it gives you a whole nother feel, but yet he's exposed properly. So to bring this to kind of like explain this, it brings this to a more of an arbitrary place of what is your look that you're going for. All right. So I've just shown you two looks. Like we have the background there, and then still a hair bright. I can still bring him down just a little bit. Maybe bring my blacks down just a little bit more. There we go. Bring my shadows down just a touch, and bring my contrast up a little bit. So that's actually not a bad shot if we turn it off. We can go there and look how he's kind of a little bit green. It's really dark. And then I turn it back on and he's pretty bright. Now, this is a good place to start. Okay. And again, there's a lot of other things you can do. You can bring that exposure down and you can bring the highlights up and you can have a darker background and a bright and then have him be brighter. So you can play with all these. You can bring the whites up and keep your exposure down. So there's a lot of places to play, but I actually kind of like my exposure up, my whites down, and my highlights down just a little bit. Bring that exposure up just a little bit more. There you go. Bring the top of this one right here, because that's him. Top of that one to 90, and I can look at it and go, he's a hair blown out. Let's bring him down. Oops, wrong one. Bring him down just a little bit. Maybe bring him to 80. There we go. Play with my contrast a little bit. Bring the contrast up. Bring my highlights down. Bring some more color back into his face. I actually really like that look right there. Okay. So, and I can look over here, and this is where my color comes in. So let's say that we're happy now with our luminance values of this shot. Again, this is what it looked like when I started, and this is what it looks like now. Okay, I'm looking at my meters. My meters, I'm near that 5. I could bring my black down just a little bit or up just a little bit, so we're really at that 5. There we go. Okay, and we're up here. You can see some squigglies at that 90-ish. You have the lights that are in there, and this is where his skin tone looks best at 80. Okay, so we're looking pretty good with this. Now we can play. Let's just say that we're done with this particular shot. Now we can play with the color grading. All right. So in color grading, there's some things we can say, well, it's midwinter. I could turn the blue down. Okay. Bring the green down just a little bit. Not too much, though. It gives it a little too much of a green hue. Can bring the blue in even deeper if I wanted. If we were going for that emotion. Now, this looks extreme, but the funny thing is if there was a reason, an emotional reason for this tint. So remember, we come back over here. We'll go back one page. There it is right there. If there was a reason, if it was cold, if this person was supposed to feel isolated or melancholy, or there's passivity, or there's a calm, blue would be good. But blue's not a good situation for this because that's not what's going on. So she's the female in this picture has been friendly, um, but at the same time like more of a passivity friendly kind of like you're bothering me but I'm giving you my attention. So you could play in the oranges, yellows. Let's see here. Observe, insecurity, sickness, madness. Well, madness is part of this because this guy's supposed to be crazy. um Obsessive. I read that wrong the first time. Obsessive. This guy's obsessive. Maybe we want to go a little bit on the yellow side. Knave. Okay. We find out she's being a little bit naive about the situation because there is a kaiju on the loose. Okay, even though she thinks he's crazy. Um, Also, you have love, passion, violence. Violence is part of it. Danger, there's danger. Anger, he gets angry because she's not listening. So, really, what it's looking like is our yellows pushing this direction. Okay, so it's not really happiness and warmth, although she is somewhat young. There's an innocence to her, there's a sweetness to her. She's nice. She has a playfulness to her. So, really, this direction is the colors that we're looking at. Okay, so yellows through reds. Okay, so if we come back over here, we know that this blue does not look good because that does not fit. So if I do this again, click, there we go. So now we're back. We can start bringing this over. I can start bringing that towards, actually, let's scroll back so I get the right reading. So we'll go here. I go click and click. There we are. All right, so now we're back to where we were at. We can bring him back to the table. Here he is. His color's looking good, but we want to bring in a little bit of yellow. Maybe that's a little bit of that red, but we can toy with that. We can bring a little bit in, and we can also saturate and unsaturate. Okay, so this you can bring in a bunch of this color. So let's bring it way in, and we'll keep it saturated normal. There we go. So we bring it in. So that looks really over the top, right? It's over the top, but then we can come in and we can unsaturate and notice it has this pinkish hue. If this is the color that you're looking for the emotion, that could work. Now, I think that's a little too much. Let's bring the tint down. There we go. And that gives you a little more of that yellow. Let's bring the orange down just a touch too. We'll bring a little more purple out. There we go. Okay, there we go. And I can bring my tint up just a touch. That's actually not looking too bad. We can see we've our lightness and darkness. We can see what's going on in this frame. Okay. And as we see what's going on in this frame, we're giving it a little bit of a color space. This is a bit hot, so we're gonna bring them both down just a touch. Bring this down to like 28, and we'll bring this down to like 20, 19. There we go. It's not too bad. Okay. Now I can bring my tint up or down. This is a much more of a yellow color. So we can play with that a little bit. 100 is where you start at, so that's a little bit much. We can bring this down. Let's bring it down to 85. 85 is not too bad. It gives us just a little bit. Okay. So it gives us a little bit of that yellow. If we come back over here, it has that yellowy orangish color. So we're playing with those emotions. And there's even a bit of a pinkness to it if you look at his skin tones. Okay. So we can do that. And though this may feel a little weird as we're looking at this as a single shot, when you're playing it, number one, your eyes are going to adjust and you're going to feel the emotion of the color more than when you're just first watching. There's movies that I've been watching where I'm like looking at the color scheme and I'm like, this just doesn't seem right. But as the movie moves on, I start to not notice it. Your brain adjusts to it, but then it really does affect the emotional tone. So you need to think about those things. All right. So let's move on to a second one. I've spent a little time on this one. Let's move on to a second one. This is much more green. If anybody would like to raise their hand and answer, I'm kidding because we're online. Um, I'm going to give you a piece of information if you don't already know it. If What I would normally ask if we were in person is what color is sunlight? And 99% of the time, everybody raises their hand. So I want you to lock in your thought process. What color is sunshine? And let's see if you're correct or wrong. Okay. The color of sunshine at, let's say, high noon is blue. And people that don't understand light are like, what? No, things are yellow and orange and all that. No, the actual true color of light is actually blue because it gets closer to the color white. Okay. Funny thing is when I ask people like, what color is the sun? They say yellow, and it's not. It's actually white. Okay. So, um, this right here, there's a lot of light coming in, and this was white balanced, the same as this, but this had internal lighting. This is outside, and this is inside, but it is next to a window, so you have a little more blue coming in here. So we'll watch this. Like, look at these, take note of these numbers, 28 and 19. So when I click here and I get my slate. There's my slate right there. Remember, 28 and 19. When I click this and go click, oh my goodness, -18 and 19. So this actually was almost the same, but notice how it changed from an oranger color, 28, to 19. Okay. So again, we're contrasting. This was more blue over here, so we grabbed it. Okay, we changed it a little bit. And again, if we look at it, it goes from here to here, from a bluish green color to more of a normal toned, skin toned color. All right, so let's move over here. He's sitting down. Let's take a look at this. So he's being very intense. We understand that. We've now set up our white balance. So now let's take a look at our meters right here. We don't have, it's not stacked up on 0. We're actually at 1. There's a lot down there. And we actually have some stuff all the way up here towards 100. So if we move it a little bit, we can see what's going on. So this right here is him. This, I believe, is the window. And let's see what else doesn't move. And this right here is the pillar right here. Okay, so that's our color space. Wouldn't surprise me if this right here is the coffee cup. So when we see the picture move, yeah, it moves back and forth and bobbles. I'll bet you, and it's also just outside him, I'll bet you this is the coffee cup. It's interesting as you get further and further, as you see things move on screen and you see them work within here, you'll start being able to pick out things. All right, so we'll go this fairly quickly because we've been going for quite a while now. All right, so we're right here. We're going to color correct. It's a bit dark here in his chest area. He's got some deep shadows here. We do want to see that texture, but it's a little bit dark. So let's start off with our blacks, and we're going to raise our blacks just a hint. There we go. Just a nub. So notice again, they're at that 5 mark. And then our whites, we're going to bring, our whites are actually pretty good, actually. Maybe move it negative 1.5. So it didn't move much at all. So our whites are looking good. Most of the whites are right here. We look at the rest, and it's kind of in this area. So we're doing okay. Exposure. We can come up and bring our exposure up, but let's look at the highlights and look at our shadows. This shadow right here, we could probably want to bring this shadow up just a little bit so we can see a little bit more in his chest. There we go. Because if I bring it all the way up, it's just too much. But from here, again, it's dark right here in his chest. We want to bring those shadows up just a touch because we do still want some of that texture. Okay. And then our highlights. We can bring our highlights up and we can bring our highlights down. I think we want to bring them up just a touch just to start brightening some stuff up right here. Okay. And then we can bring in some contrast and we can stretch it. We can bring our contrast out, which makes it kind of uh, uh, a passive white. Let's bring this up just a little bit. There it is. Good. And let's bring our exposure up just a hint. There we go. There we go. And now we can really see right here. But this right here got a little bit too bright. So now we can come into our highlights, bring our highlights down just a little bit. And we can even bring our shadows down just a touch. Bring our whites right there at that 95 mark. Good. That's looking pretty good. So let's see what it looked like before. Okay. So that's kind of a gross looking shot, honestly. And that's what it looks like now. So it's much better. We can play with our saturation. Okay. And remember, if we're looking at this, we'll bring this back down to 100. By the way, if you ever move a slider and you go, no, I liked it where it was, you can always just type the number in. There it is. Okay, so we go here, and our previous one, we said we wanted a little bit more yellow, so we can come in here and we can bring a little of that in. And we're going to bring this down just a hint, bring a little bit more up. There we go. And then we can turn around and work with our saturation. You can crank your saturation, make it horribly yellow. You can bring it down, make it black and white. So I'm kind of thinking that we're going to want this right around that 109 mark. Now, notice the difference. We had 110 right there. We come over here and hit this one, and we have it down at 86. Okay, and I can see that there's a little bit more to this. I want to actually, still looking at that, it's a little too much. I can bring it down and bring this down just a little bit. There we go. All right. So we come back over here and go, okay, well, I need a little bit more to match it. So we want to match it just a touch. There we go. It's a little bit better. You can go back and forth. Skin tones. Let's look at our skin tones. That's pretty darn close. The skin tones are really close. As he steps into the light, it's much more close to what his forehead is. All right. So that is the basics of color correction. Notice over here, we're reading our meters. We're between 95 and we're and we're at 5. You basically read your color meters the same way. If you don't have something that's massively blue in here, then your blues should not be peaking out and getting crazy. Watch what happens if I drag the blues. See how they crank way up? You can see them peak out here at the top. We don't want them to peak. We want them to be the peak. The tops of them are here in the and at what would be equivalent to our 95 right here. It's going to be probably 245. So if I bring it back right about there. So there we go. Yeah, we're pretty close to where I just was. I wasn't even looking at the slider. I was just sliding. There we go. Now the reds right here, you can play with this and bring them down. Okay. So you're able to look at your meters for the correction here, and then when you're ready to start doing your color grading, we know that we want a little bit more of that yellowish, reddish in there. So I'll go back here. He's a little bit brighter than I want. And see this is and notice how I'm starting to contradict some of the choices that I made. It's because I'm looking at it going, okay, well, let's move this a little bit here. Let's move this a little bit there. As I work with it, I want to find that really nice space of how they match and the emotion that it gives us. So nothing is ever perfect and set in stone until you are ready to say, this is it. This is what I love. Um, I'm doing this on the fly. I haven't color corrected this footage in probably 2 years, year and a half. So I'm doing this on the fly, and so I'm doing this freestyle right here in front of you. But this is essentially fairly close. Okay, that's about it. So make sure that when you come in, you use your slate right here. Make sure that you white balance on your slate, and then you need to go through and read your meters to make sure that nothing goes below 95 and nothing is above, or excuse me, below 5 and nothing's above 95, and your shadows and your highlights are all feeling pretty close. And again, you can always turn this off. Oops, wrong one. Turn this on and off to decide what color if you're moving in the right direction. The reason why we use our meters is because our monitors are probably not calibrated and could be slightly off. So you cannot trust your eyes on here 100%. Okay. If you guys have any questions this week, by all means, please reach out. I hope you enjoyed the basic color correction tutorial. Remember, over here on this box, color. Once you select color, if you don't have your Lumetri scopes, come over here to Windows and come down to Lumetri scopes right here. Click on those. Okay. And then you have your wrench right here. You can turn on as many of these as you want or turn off as many of these as you want. I prefer the RGB Parade and the Waveform Luma. So when you get to your parade type, you can go an RGB Parade and a waveform type of Luma. Okay. And those are my opinions for there. And then when we get in here, white balance, work on your exposure, starting from black to white, then shadows, then lights, and then you come up to contrast and exposure. So my opinion is work from the bottom up, because if you start working on exposure first, you really can mess up your blacks and whites. So start from the bottom to the top. And then from there, you can cruise in and do your color grading to decide if you want it to be a little hued a little bit more towards orange or blue or a little greener or a little cyan. All right, guys. Well, you have a great week. I look forward to seeing what you do with color grading. If you have questions, by all means, please reach out and I will talk to you soon.